You can't sit in silence. You can't wait in line without checking your phone. You can't be on the couch without turning on the TV. We can't even drive without a distraction from life. How often do you sit in silence and just think about things? How is your focus? How long can you go just focused on a topic without distractions? Hello and welcome to the Alpha Insight Podcast. Today we're going to be discussing constant brain stimulation, and I'm your host, Jameson Riling. Let's get into the show. If you enjoy this episode, I would really appreciate you leaving a review and a rating on whatever platform you're listening on. It's super easy to do. You can go to Apple Podcast. If you own an Apple device, just scroll down and click the leave a review button. And then, I would love to hear what you enjoyed about this episode and what you learned. And without further ado, let's get into the episode. You and I live in a world of constant stimulation. Our dopamine levels have never been higher, ever. Our need for stimulation and dopamine's action upon the brain are connected, which explains why people who constantly crave stimulation are in danger of addictive behavior such as drug abuse and gambling, says ScienceDaily.com, and the source is from University of Copenhagen. This clearly proves my point. An article from drugabusestatistics.org says there's a 3.8% in drug use year over year. And I'm going to leave the links to these websites somewhere on these platforms as well, connected to this episode. Drug and alcohol use increases year after year because our brains are constantly stimulated, and it's just getting worse and worse. And it makes our brains physically more susceptible to addiction. And this episode is not over drugs and alcohol, but this is just an example of what exactly, this is just an example of the effect that the constant brain stimulation has on our everyday lives. When we are constantly looking for something to fill our empty space in our minds, we lose focus on our everyday tasks because our brains crave stimulation. So today, a stimulation is checking our phones, watching TV, or listening to music, which I discussed in the last episode, stimulates our brains and the frequencies we listen to, and things we watch, and actions that we do, drinking, drugs. All of this is going to affect our dopamine levels and our serotonin levels, which are stimulating our brains. And our phones is a great example of this because and caffeine, and we're getting exposed constantly to stimulation, and our generation is if you look back in the day, the daily caffeine limit used to be 80 milligrams a day. Now it's 400 milligrams a day, because once we get it and we have such easy access to these things, it's like we just crave more constantly. And so we're just continually pushing those boundaries. I'm bringing this topic up because it is honestly upsetting just looking around, and everyone you see in public is just a zombie. You can't even make conversations with new people. Your confidence is low, and to get away even further, you just put in your earbuds and isolate yourself even more. I get anxious about things going on in my life, as does about everybody, and I have a past of forgetting about them, or not forgetting, but making myself feel good But it wasn't until I recently learned how to just be in the moment, and I'm not talking about meditation, I just mean reflecting on myself. Reflecting on myself has been so important for me, and it's like, if you think about it, it's like, how often do you just reflect on your day? And how often do you just sit there and just think about what you learned today? Or what is life teaching you right now? Or what is God trying to tell you right now? Whatever you believe in, what is life teaching you right now? But we don't ask ourselves these questions very often because there's a level of laziness, and honestly, it's almost, we are too lazy to engage in our own thoughts. It's almost as if we don't want to spend the time to think anymore. I've tried meditation and I thought it was going to be the answer to my problems, calm me down. And while I feel like it taught me how to just be okay in the moment and to remember, like, to just, today instead of tomorrow and instead of yesterday, meditation, I thought, was a good spiritual practice, but I hadn't thought about what the effects of that could be. And meditation is a way to shut your mind off, which basically turns you into a beacon for spiritual beings to come into your life. And this episode is not about spirituality and demons and all that stuff. That's the other episode. That's the other episode. This episode is about your focus, your memory, and your goals. You have goals for your life, as most people do, but do you actually work on those goals? It can be very hard to sit down and do that thing that you hate doing, and you procrastinate daily and wait until the last minute until you need to do it. Or you may do the classic, I'll start next year, or I'll start next month. I'll start next week. I won't stop doing this habit until next year. And I did that for a long time. But I'm sorry to tell you that if you're going to go about life with that mentality, you're not going to get stuff done. I'm speaking on this topic because I want you to get back on track. I want you to focus. I want you to go through the grind and achieve your goals. Achieve those goals, people. Achieve those goals. Self-discipline is one of the best and worst things I've ever learned, and I'm still, learning it daily on how to improve my focus and self-discipline. And it does suck, but I've become so much of a better and stronger person because of it, because I choose, to get out of bed in the morning. Actually, I've been having a hard time with that. But that's something I've been focusing on. And I choose to make this podcast every week. And that was really hard for me to do. But it's getting easier because I'm spending more time doing it. And it's becoming easier and easier the more time I put into it. And the more time you put into it, if you think about it, if you spend, half an hour a day or an hour a day on one thing, you're going to become better than that person that's doing it one day a week for an hour, It's that self-discipline that really grows people, and you start to learn these skills much faster than you would even expect or think. I'm going to tell a story. So oftentimes when I'm microwaving my food, I am very impatient. And it just, it gets me thinking, like, back in the day, people had to hunt all day for their food. And then on top of that, they had to cook it over a fire, which took who knows how long. And they had to gut it and, whatever else. And I'm sitting over here just waiting for my 40 seconds in the microwave, like, and I can't even like go that whole time without checking my phone or listening to music or like turning on an Instagram reel or whatever, right? And it's like my brain is like, oh no, you're sitting in silence for 40 seconds. You need to get on your phone and you need to check this or that. And it's just insane to me that that's how we are living every single day. When you're driving and, you get to a red light and you're sitting there like, no, I need to get there so fast. Like, I need to be there right now. I need to, this or that, I'm in a hurry. Do you ever just look at yourself in those moments and think like, I'm blessed that I have a car to drive. Like this would take a lot longer if I was walking. Isn't it such a blessing that we have these red lights to control our traffic so we're not all hitting each other or, whatever? It's like, do you ever just stop and think like about these things? We're so used to constant dopamine and stimulation and serotonin. We can't even sit at a microwave for 40 seconds for our food to be done. That's just crazy. Maybe that's just me. It could just be me. I know it's not just me though. So our brains crave stimulation. So we look to new ways to up the doses. We get that caffeine and then our body gets used to that caffeine amount. And then our brain is like, oh my gosh, I need more caffeine to even feel what the old dose of caffeine gave me. And then we up our dose. And then same goes with just about everything else. Our phone usage. It's like our brains are just constantly craving stimulation because we've just upped our doses constantly. We start watching porn, which I will discuss in another episode, and we look at our social media likes and follows. We look to, our paychecks. We look to these people, our friends. We look to our music, our movies, our, TikTok. We look to, whatever it is. And these things are all leading your mental health down the toilet if that is your main source of fulfillment. If you have no self-control, there's no way for your mind to relax. Porn causes lack of motivation, lack of confidence, lack of self-worth, and people give into it every day because it feels good in the moment. And everyone says these things will make them happy, but if they make you so happy, why do you do it all the time? And see, I would kind of agree, but disagree. They may make you happy, but there's a difference between happy and joy. We have no self-control and our brains crave stimulation, so we give into these bad habits again and again, which over time makes us feel even worse, which just makes us want to feel better again, and it cycles over and over again. Because we're searching for happiness when we should be searching for joy. And the difference is, happiness is like a mood. You could be happy, you just got $1 million, and then you get a phone call and your mom died. And wow, all that happiness is down the drain, right? It's just a in the moment feeling. And joy is a never-ending peace and happiness. And this episode, I'm not trying to preach to you and whatever, but the way I found joy was through my religion. And that's the only source of joy I could find. And it's crazy how people are considered weird if they don't do these things. Like if you don't watch porn, you're considered weird. Or if you don't engage in these things, like you don't drink, you don't do drugs, whatever, you're considered weird. If you don't, like if you talk to people in public, you're considered weird. It's time you just take a moment to breathe. Just go a day without your phone. And some of you might be thinking, oh, whoa, back up, buddy. But that just kind of, that just proves my point that you need it. Go a day without your phone. Take socials off your phone if that's what your distraction is. Like, why do you even keep them? What if I'm bored? What if I'm stuck in the airport and I have nothing to do? What if? Do you get what I'm saying though? It's time to be real. I'm tired of everybody being so impatient when they don't even realize it's a blessing to have what they have. I'm tired of people not having the patience to drive, to make their food in a microwave. I'm tired of the social interactions where we're just checking our phones when we're talking to people because we get uncomfortable, because we don't know how to talk to people anymore. I'm tired of it. One of the best ways I think could impact you and help you, if you really think what I'm saying makes a good point, is a dopamine detox. And no, it's not very fun, but it really is at the end of the day. A dopamine detox, you have to make your rules and you have to stick to them. For me, rules that I would recommend: cut out as much stimulation as you can. For me, what I did was limit to 1 hour of screens per day. And I just did this for a week. Limit 1 to 1 hour of screens per day. And that includes listening to music, no music and, stuff like that. It's only 1 hour. And then I cut out caffeine. And then I would suggest you go on a sexual cleanse, which would be, spanking your monkey or whatever, if you're a lady, whatever else you do. But a cleanse from that. And, it's just those 3 rules, those basic rules, and whatever else you think may be another stimulation that you want to add in, you can add in, but those are just the basics. 1 week, 1 hour of screens, and no music, no spanking your monkey, no caffeine. And it's really not that hard once you start it. You will feel so much better about yourself, and you'll feel so much better about yourself. You'll have more patience. You'll have more peace. You'll start to just think for yourself. I just want to encourage you to be better and to start that. I just really want to encourage you to be better and to start. You need to really focus on what you want to be better at, what you want to change or fix or work on. These are things to think about on that detox. And you don't ever do that when you're living in an alternate reality. You don't ever do that when you're too lazy to even think for yourself. Just as the doctor says, you'll feel worse before you'll feel better. And I just got so tired of feeling too lazy to even think. And I went on this dopamine detox, which I highly recommend. And I just, it gave me time to just think. And that's going to wrap up this episode. I really hope you enjoyed. I love this topic. I think it's so important, and I hope you learned something. I really would encourage you to do that dopamine detox. Make your own rules. You can change some if you want, but really those are the three main things you should focus on. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really love for you to leave a review and a rating on whatever you're listening on Apple Podcast. If you have an Apple device, super, super easy. You just scroll down and click the leave a review button, and then you just, type in your little deal. Give me a 5 stars because I'm just that good. And that's that. You can check me out on Instagram. It's at Alpha Insight Podcast. Message me if you think you have any topics you want me to discuss or anything like that. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you on the next episode.